Gotta use this stuff. Find out which ones work with a ferro rod, which ones don't. Find out which ones who, although they might not be that easy to light, they wind up being a coal extender. You know, these are all things that you have to try. And that's part of your learning process as well. Guys, this is pretty cool right here. You know, again, we talk about our situational awareness, and you know, we're judging and we're looking at tracks that we see in the snow, which greatly improves, you know, our information on to tell what type of animals are in the area. And this whole section right here has all been torn up. And if you look right here, which I'll move the camera around, this was a turkey that come in through here. Yeah, he's just meandering through the woods, came over here, changed direction, came back over here, and just tore this up looking for food. So we know we got a gobbler around in here, or, you know, whatever. And turkey drumstick would taste pretty good if you were out here. You're out in the woods and you have been moving and everything, over time you still will tend to cool down a bit, and you could possibly get into a hypothermic situation. One of the things that you can do to check that is to do a manual dexterity test, and if you can do this without any problems, then you're still probably pretty good to go. Okay, just bear in mind, if you start to slow down and you start to stumble a little bit more, maybe your speech becomes slurred, or you're not thinking correctly, or it takes you a little bit longer to have a thought process, you may be in the throes of the beginning of hypothermia. So you may want to make that fire, and you may want to get warm. One of the things that you want to be aware of when you're setting up a camp, or even just a place to sit, is you want to be aware of any deadfalls that could be above your head. And actually right behind me, there's a deadfall that I want to show you, and then I want to show you what is actually still holding it up. And then you can judge for yourself and tell me if you think that this would be a safe spot at all to set up a camp. Granted, I have water right here, and granted, there's a lot of firewood that, you know, we can use to keep ourselves warm. But check this out. And that's the deadfall, which is still going actually, and it's hung up by just this tree here. I don't know, I think I'll opt for something better. I think right here I'm going to pick this spot to build my fire, and for one of the reasons why is I have a natural backstop which is actually stopping any wind from hitting my back. It's going to help reflect the fire back into me as well. So we're going to go out and we're going to construct one of the easiest fires and fire lays that you can do to get yourself up, running, and warm. Right? It's basically known as a twig fire. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with 3 different size fuels. We have to remember that we want to keep our fuel elevated up out of the snow, because we don't want it to actually sink down into it and start to put it out. So we're going to have to make a platform first. So let's start gathering our materials, and we'll do that now. So we talk about resources, and resources can include the items that we need to create the fire, or they could be a knife edge or the teeth of a saw, the sharpness of those instruments. Well, we may need them for more things that are more important later on. So instead of sawing this piece of wood for my elevated platform for the fire, I could break it. I could put it on a log and I could step on it. But you know what else you could do? You run the risk of injuring yourself. I know you don't think so, but yeah, you can. So why not take advantage of what nature has to offer us and just use a little bit of leverage? See, we have 2 trees right here, and we have this stick. Now, put it where you want to break it. Well, look at that. And that didn't hurt at all. I got 2 pieces of wood and I didn't really exert myself at all. What I did was, I want to keep that fire elevated off the snow again so it doesn't snuff it out. But when we make it, you know, we need to create a space where there's going to be airflow that we're going to get in there. So what I want to do, I want to kind of make it like a little triangle here. And we can keep everything up out of the snow and still allow airflow to get in there. This is going to give us a platform that we can put our tinder bundle and the rest of our fuel. So let's talk about the fuel that we're going to collect for this fire. You're going to want to have 3 sizes of fuel and 3 sizes of twigs. We all want dead standing twigs or branches. All right, we have the 3 sizes right here. We want to have a pencil lead size, we want to have a pencil sized fuel, and then finally we want to have thumb sized to give us more substantial fuel to allow it to burn while the fire is going, so that we can go away, we can get more firewood, bring it back, and we should be assured that this fire will still stay burning. Just remember, your smaller sizes will always burn up first before the larger sizes. But they'll also save your fire. So that's why when we're collecting our fuel, we can start off with about this much of each size of the fuels to start our fire. Ideally, what you want to do though is you want to gather 3 times the prep. So you want 3 bundles of each fuel this size. So you're talking about this much a piece. That will ensure you that you can start a fire at least 2 more times, or if you need to continue with a fire, then you can add that while you run out and get some more stuff. So one of the ways that you can check whether or not your wood is dry is if you take it after you snap it and you hold it to your face. Okay, dead wood will warm to your face. If you have wood that has any amount of moisture in it, it will still feel very cool to the touch. So that's something to take into consideration. So here's our fuel for the fire, our pencil lead, our pencil, and our thumb size. Now let's take a look at what we have to work with for our tinder, and we'll get this thing rolling, because actually I am starting to get cold. All right, so let's take stock in actually what we collected today. Well, we have our cedar bark that's right here. We have our phragmites that we picked up along the way. We have our yellow birch right here. We have our water vine, and then here we actually have a collection of dried grasses, flower tops, and whatnot that we got from the field. Now, these will work independently of themselves, but if we take a combination of them, and of course we don't have to use the entire pile, we could still come up with a tinder bundle that should accomplish what we want. Remember, we're looking for fine, fluffy, highly combustible materials. Some of these things need some processing. So the birch bark that's obviously in these big pieces, we don't want. So what we're going to do is we're going to wind up flexing them up, moving them around. You know, we want them to be nice and fluffy. We want to keep on working them because we want that success. The more that we work our tinders, the easier it will be to have that success in fire. Same thing with our birch bark. You know? We want to make this into nice little shards. Get it all nice and up in here. So, our water vine, unfortunately, is not the greatest at so we can use this behind the nest itself. And our dried grasses, you know, give them a little twist, fluff them up a bit, and we should be fine with these. So we're going to put that there. We have our Phragmites, which I like to intermingle within to help keeping it going. I actually want to hold the cedar, and I want to hold some of the birch, because like I said, we don't need to use it all. We only need to use a little bit. It's about resources again. You want to save these things. So I'm going to save that for later, for another fire. Pick up all these small pieces. If you're using a ferro rod, you want that great surface area. Okay. Now, we're going to set this in here. And that'll be ready to go. Now we have our tinder bundle and it's in place. Now we just need to prep the fire a little bit. We're going to start by putting in and layering the pencil lead size fuel first. And then we're going to throw in a few of the pencil size, and then finally our last ones. Alright guys, so what we've done is we've put our pencil lead size fuel on the sides, and then this way we can actually move it in once our tinder bundle goes up. Then we're going to add our pencil lead, a few of these, and then finally some of our thumb size. So that's what we'll do now. Lighting this, we should be able to light this with a ferro rod. We do carry a lighter. If I was going to do this with flint and steel, I would have actually held the tinder bundle and blown it up. But today, I think we're going to go with a ferro rod. And I usually keep one right inside my coat, a winter shirt here. So let's give it a shot. One shot with a ferro rod. Start to let it work. Move my pencil size in. Now we can move our pencil in. Finally, some of our larger fuel. Alright guys, so I'm going to sit here and enjoy this fire and warm myself up a little bit. Some of this was geared towards, novices, and that's okay. You know why? Because novices are going to be the next generation of people that are going to be doing videos to share with people, to teach the new novices, and that's how we keep things going. That's how we keep traditions alive. That's how we keep experience alive, and wisdom and knowledge. There was a line in a movie, and it was called The Edge, where somebody asked, why do people die in the woods? And the answer was shame. That's what the director wrote, or the writer of the movie. I don't know so much if that's the correct answer, but I can tell you that ego will hurt you faster. There is no sense in you borrowing trouble. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing to be thrust in a situation that is beyond your control versus you actually putting yourself there because of your ego, where you don't have a fire tool, you don't have a combustion tool, you don't have a knife, you don't have cover, you're not dressed appropriately for your conditions, you're trying to impress somebody. That's not what it's about. It's about going out, enjoying yourself, and becoming self-reliant and knowing how to handle situations. That includes going home, cutting the day short. Okay? If you're in a situation where it just doesn't feel right, go on home. You know what? Sit down, have that cup of hot chocolate, think about it, think about what you could change, and then go out the next day and have a good time. Jack London wrote a book called To Build a Fire. Actually, it was a short story. Read that. Think about it. There was another book that was written about an ill-fated Everest summit attempt, and it was called Into Thin Air. Several of the climbers who had summited before never made it back because they had to push, they had to get to the summit, they had to go. Even when they were told, no way, you got to turn around, you got to go back, you're going to lose it, you lost your opportunity. And they all said no. They all died, except for the guy that wrote the book, John Krakauer. It's not about that. It's about going out, having fun, learning, and teaching other people. Let's go through some of the things that we discussed today before I actually get out of here. We talked about helping yourself in a SAR situation. Prior to that SAR situation, leave message to where you're going. Okay? I know it sounds ridiculous if you're going out for a half an hour, but you just don't know. So why not give yourself that bit of cushion and help yourself along and let somebody know where you're going. Always remember too that if you tell them that's where you're going to be, stay there. There's an old thing for diving, scuba diving. It's called plan your dive, dive your plan. You never change things around. In the end, that can hurt you. If you tell somebody that you're going to be here and you wind up changing your mind along the way and going here and you don't let them know, if something happens to you, you know where they're looking? They're looking here and not here. That could get you hurt. We talked about dressing appropriately for the conditions that you're in. It's wintertime. I showed you some winter layering, and I showed you the items that I was wearing. Talked about a kit that I'm carrying today. I don't need resources. The collection of resources. And when to actually collect those resources. We talked about gathering at opportune times, even if it means we stop while we're driving along the way and pick up some resources to carry with us or to have. Take them home, we could practice with those resources as well. That's what it's about too. It's about collecting things, trying them. What works, what doesn't work, what can work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. Always remember these things. Always remember the fact that if you are in an area that you're not familiar with, you better take things that you do know if there are similarities. We talked about identifying those resources in some tinders, the processing of those tinders. We talked about a very simple fire lay, which is the twig fire that's going to get you warm very quickly and allow you to have a fire going so that you can go out and get more substantial firewood.